Hello, I'm live again. Okay, this is another COVID-19 update. I know this is probably a dead horse's beat, but this is the most important thing I could ever, in my entire lifetime and probably ever, talk about. And I've been thinking about this. My occupation is not medical. I'm not a virologist. I never went to college other than maybe a few courses. Um, all I've done is by the seat of my pants. I've learned everything on my own almost, but I do know a little bit about data, how to collect data, how to analyze data. That's my occupation. Uh, no big deal, but I'm just a regular guy that has a job and does, I think, a pretty good job at it. Um, and I think I have some insights. And what I'm seeing is that what my main concern is, it looks like they're starting to open up businesses again, and that's really good. They're starting to open up, but I'm a little leery of the order in which they're doing things. Seems to be based on kind of like populism. What it is, it's kind of making it more comfortable for people that uh, have a job already, but it's not helping the people that don't have jobs, that aren't working. They're not opening up work, they're opening up certain types of places. I've seen reports, and I could be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm seeing reports of people opening up restaurants for sit down restaurant. um, they're opening up uh, other stores other than other shops, basically any kind of a shop they're starting to open up. So that includes where you get your nails done, your hair done, uh, gymnasiums, beaches, parks, and there's one commonality between all these places that it is my concern. And I'm using some terminology that's kind of, I've never even used it before, but the terminology I like to introduce to you is called traceability. And so let's just say you could scale it on a factor of 0 to 10, how traceable something is. And contact tracing is what I'm talking about. Contact traceability is what I'm talking about. So the idea of contact tracing is if someone gets COVID-19, you can go and find out who you gave it to or where you got it from by going around and checking who you've been in contact with. And so that's what contact tracing is. And they're trying to develop software to do contact tracing, and that's great news. And that's what my focus is on, is starting to be on, is software and the data in the software in. So this is all about data, mostly in software, where I'm thinking is a data type of approach. And so let's look on the scale of traceability versus non-traceability. So let's just start with the easy part. The most traceable contacts you have are your friends and family, your closest friends and family, people that you normally, if you were free to do so, you would hang around with them all the time. So if you get sick, and the only people that you ever see on the entire planet are your immediate family and your friends, then there's a good chance you'll know where you got the virus from and who you spread it to. Now, the more you add to this equation, the more people you add, the more difficult it gets, of course, right? So let's think about what's traceable, what's not traceable. So the most traceable things are regularly see people that you know, or are able to get some kind of information about them, a contact or some kind of information, logging of something that you could record or log, like a receipt. If you used your credit card somewhere, it could keep track of that. You can use GPS and things like that. But so technology helps traceability. Logging of where you're at and who you're with helps traceability. But I want to talk about the general environments that you're in. Let's just talk about that first. And so, if you're, this is pretty common sense. You should be able to understand this. You go to work with the same people pretty much every day. And I'm not talking about your whole company. Let's say you have a business that has 100 people in your building. Do you come in contact with those people when you used to work? If you're not out of work now, do you come in contact with those same people every day? I mean, do you come in contact with all 100 of those people every day? You could say yes and no, right? Because you all share the same bathroom. But wait a second. What if you had it where only people from shipping and receiving and only people from the warehouse could access this bathroom here, and only the manager? So then you'd have a situation, or maybe not the manager, maybe the management has a different bathroom that they have contact. So that reduces the number of people that you have contact with. So that if somebody gets sick in that group, it's contained within that group of people. Supposedly, I mean, it's not easy to contain anything, right? Because you're always talking to different people. But so if you're, let's just call it a traceable community. What if your traceable community consists of only your family and friends, and only the people you work with, and those are only people you came in contact. You didn't go shopping at a grocery store. You didn't go to a concert, movie concert, which are low traceability. And the reason why those are low traceable is because you're meeting strangers. You're coming in contact with strangers. You don't even have their phone number. You don't have their email address. The only record that you have that you two were in the same building at the same time, or even within a period of any time, really think about it. You got hundreds of thousands of people that are going in and out of the building, leaving germs and viruses on in the store, in the air, and on surfaces of things. You can't trace that. I mean, I don't even know how you could trace any of that. How do you know that some guy from Colorado didn't drive into town, stop in your Walmart, leave the disease in here in El Cajon, California, and then went back to Colorado, and then another guy comes in an hour later after he was in there, and he touched something after touching his face or something, rubbed his nose or something, touched some object, and some other guy from a local touches that, gets sick, and then they go, okay, how did you get that? Well, I was in Walmart 14 days ago. Okay, so you got it at Walmart probably. Okay, so who did you get it from at Walmart? Who knows, you know? So this is why I think it's not a good idea for them to start opening up other customer interfacing businesses before opening up businesses that do things where they don't interface a lot with customers. I mean, every business has customers, but you can kind of keep track of who your customers are in some businesses because they have accounts, you know. So account-based systems in businesses are the most traceable of the businesses, and the most traceable environments that you're on is your close family and friends, people you know, versus people that are random people. So if you go to a concert, well, let's just say a sporting event. This is a way to deal with this, okay? Let's say if you have open up a sporting event, you go, okay, we're going to have a sporting event. Well, you have tickets, and it tells you what seat you're at, so you kind of know who you're with. You know what I mean? So you're going to be exposed to a lot of different people. But if you wanted to contain that, you could have it where people that are from out of town sit in a certain section, and people that are in the town sit in another section. That's just a small example. I'm not trying to engineer a solution. I'm trying to illustrate certain concepts that I hope that I want the politicians and decision makers and the people that design the software and the people that are going to be active in helping people with this disease, give them some information that they need to know, some things that I need to talk about. And I just don't hear a lot of people talking about traceability. I've heard one person mention traceability or mention contact tracing in a way that made sense. And so I'm sure I'm sure what I'm saying is not a new idea. It's just I haven't heard anybody say it. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it. So I think eventually it's going to come out. And the important thing I'm trying to say is that the way that they're handling, I'm talking about the governors and the politicians and things like that, the way that they're handling this is kind of going to prolong the problem and also could cause a second wave or resurgence of the disease. And the way it happens is if you isolate other people from other people, they are going to not develop their immune system. Their immune system is going to be weakened, and they get depressed, and all kinds of other things happen. They're not allowed to do the things they enjoy, so they get depressed, and immune system gets weakened. And also, people are just simply not obeying the rules anymore. They're fed up with it, and they just want to do what they want to do. That's just the way people are, especially in America. They don't like to be told what to do. So you got situations where you can't even control where people go. So what we need is more of a voluntary type of system, and a system that makes a lot of sense where people can go, okay, I get it. I get that. You know, and And so we could have a resurgence here because eventually they're going to have to let people go. You can't just continually for years and years just tell people they can't see other people. You can't go to work. How are they supposed to earn a living? It's violation of their basic human fundamental right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You can't do that. You have to be reasonable with people, and you have to come up with ideas that are going to work with everybody. And so that's why I keep emphasizing contact tracing and traceability. I don't think contact tracing and traceability are an end-all answer, because it's a continual battle that you'd have to fight, and there's a lot of data that you'd have to go through. But you can use software to a certain extent. But I think the general concepts are, I want people to think in terms of risk. Okay, if you're a high risk group, like you're a senior citizen and you got asthma, or you got some kind of chest COPD, or you emphysema, or any kind of a breathing disorder, or just heart problems or anything like that, diabetes. I have diabetes type 2. Then you're a higher risk category. You should be isolating yourself more than other people. That's a given, right? Then the people that are healthy should be isolating themselves less. They're still isolating themselves from people in the high risk category, but they're isolating themselves less, and they should be developing herd immunity. And then as far as risk goes for them, the main risk they have is just non-traceability or being exposed to strangers. So I'm less comfortable when I'm in Walmart, even if I got a face mask, than I am at the local, let's say, Jack in the Box, if I go there, because all the people that work there I've been exposed to over and over and over. And so the places that are smaller places are in my mind, seem safer than the places that are not. And so the only way that we could get through this is to develop herd immunity, or a vaccine. But a vaccine we don't have any promise. There's no promise that we're going to have a vaccine. And we can't continue isolating ourselves. So that's why we're talking about phasing in and monitoring. And I have a problem that what's going to happen is a couple months down the road, maybe in October, we're going to have cooler weather again, and it might have it. We don't know for sure, but it's possible that COVID can be somewhat seasonal. I think there's a very good reason to believe that. It's just common sense. And then, so then we'll have in October a resurgence of the disease, and then people are going to say, we need to go back to isolating. We need to go back to that. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get people to think, wait a second, what we need to do is we need to have containment and traceability in software, and voluntary solutions, rather than a very draconian, tyrannical regime where the cops tell you you have to continue to walk on a beach, and the person that's being told that has no idea why. It just says you should just not do that. But if someone says, hey, it's more dangerous to be around strangers than it is to be around people you know, and it's safer to go to a place where you work, where you're around the same people, as long as it's contained environment, then that's the kind of thing that people voluntarily, if it makes sense to them, they'll understand it. But right now it's the opposite. They're doing the opposite. There's so many different things they have done that are just contrary to what has already been established as good control of viruses. Wash your hands a lot. They tell the public to wash your hands often. That will prevent yourself from getting it. But they don't tell you. They tell you that, for example, they tell you a cloth mask is good, but it's not. It doesn't do anything. In fact, I think it's actually making it worse. And people are wearing a cloth mask because the law tells them to, and you see them, their nose sticking out because they can't breathe, and they walk around with their nose sticking out because they don't understand why they're supposed to wear a cloth, or they do, but they have to because they got to live. I mean, it's hot out there. It's in San Diego. It's 95 degrees out here. And so it's miserable wearing these masks, and people are just getting done with them. And so now we have laws that don't make sense. We have people trying to, the governments are trying to get people back to business, but they're taking the wrong approach. They seem to be taking a populist type of approach. What I mean by populist is that the one that is going to make the most people happy. And so you got a certain number of population, probably the majority of the people have work or have money, and they're not financially struggling. But their main problem they're having now is they can't go to any store they want to. They can't get their hair cut. They can't get their nails done. They can't go to the gym and things like that. So they're opening up those things. They're opening parks up. They're opening up the beaches up and all that. And I'm all for opening really everything up, to be honest, for healthy people. But I'm telling you that if there is a resurgence, that maybe there's a better way of doing this than to have everybody get locked down again. God forbid we have that again, you know?